So I'm in the attic today. We are prepping to be able to blow in more insulation. I've come up and marked the trusses with some spray paint already. That's how much more insulation we're going to be blowing in. Right now we've got about 9 inches and we will be going up to just over 24. So I've got them marked at 25 just to be safe. The next thing I'm gonna be doing is raising up those insulation stops. So you can see the insulation's right to the top there. And as I blow in more insulation, we will be over them.
So I live in a northern climate, in fact one of the cold climates. The recommended insulation R value for an attic in the area that I live is an R60. So this is where I ended up going to buy my insulation. We went to Lowe's. This is the exact stuff I bought, the Johnson's Manville attic insulation. If you come down here, it tells you it can be blown in up to R70. And then if you go onto their site, it shows you how many bags you're going to need per 100 square feet. Well, my attic was, one level of my house is 700 square feet, so we just kind of did some quick math and did a little bit of estimation there. But we tried to go R60, and they say their settled thickness is 22.5, so you need to blow it in at 22.6. Why we went a little bit higher was because as we looked at the different insulation manufacturers, their settle thickness was a lot different than their blow-in thickness. I didn't know what we had in there originally. It was white, like the Johnson's insulation is. So that's what we ended up going with as well. When I was in the attic and lying on top of things, I'm compressing the insulation that was already in there. Our value per inch is 2.67. So if we take what we had originally, which was about 9 inches, 2.67, that would have given us an R value of about 24 if the stuff in there was of the same quality as what we were blowing in. So we went roughly 25 times the 2.767 would give us about an R value of 66.75 with a little bit of settling and unevenness as we're blowing in. So that's what we went with. As for the attic stops, I couldn't find cardboard attic stops. It was all foam, and I really didn't want it. It was all foam like this stuff over here, and it didn't really match up like my profile, because originally they were nailing truss to truss, and this stuff lies inside the truss, and I was worried about insulation getting down inside. So we just found some of this plastic kind of insulation that you see me putting in later. It's a rollout stuff that you can use for sound deadening or other insulation projects. It's got a very small insulation value, like I think it's like 0.7 maybe, so nothing there. But I was just using it for longevity. If it gets wet, it's not going to affect it, and I could roll it widthwise across my trusses and nail it on and wouldn't have problems. It was a little more expensive than using cardboard, but I couldn't find the cardboard insulation stops, but that's what I went with. There's other insulation you could have gone with. For instance, the Articat was pink. I wanted it to match the color, and with Lowe's or Home Depot were our two main options. If you buy over so many bags, you get the machine for free, the rental for free. Also, as you hear later on, you hear the machine, the pitch change. That's because my helper that was feeding in the insulation into the machine was opening up a new bag, but you could clearly hear when the machine stopped. I also took the hose, put it down into the insulation that I had compressed down as I was climbing on it, and that helped to blow it back up and fluff it up. There's some options for you, but you will need a second person. Some of the machines came with a remote, mine did not.
Here's a video of kind of what I'm doing here. So if we go back this way, I don't know if I can see that. There's the cardboard ones. So I'm extending them. Cardboard insulation ducts, I'm extending them back out to here. This line right here, that's 24 inches. So all this is going to get covered in insulation up to there. And then with the reduced attic space, we're probably going to put in some whirlybirds on top to force air through the attic. But this is kind of what you're doing. You're lying truss to truss with some boards. I've got my roll there, got my stapler here, and we're going to get started again, lengthening out these insulation ducts.
I think with the reduced attic space, I'm going to need some better ventilation in my attic. I decided to go with some whirlybirds or with some turbine ventilators. So that's the next job, is to install those. About a year after I installed the turbine ventilators, I ended up needing to redo my roof. So they ended up coming off, and we went with a different system, which is a ridge vent going all the way down the top of the ridge. Once we opened up that ridge, even though I had the holes from the wind turbines, on a hot summer day we got a blast of hot air. So that extra about 1.5 to 2 feet from the top of where that wind turbine was to the very top of the ridge was still holding a lot of heat. Well, I know some of this footage was filmed vertically. Unfortunately, that's how it was done, and I didn't film the full process just due to time restraints. Well, I hope you found this video educational or at least entertaining. Thanks for coming along on the Repair Experience.